Oh, yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Episode 39. As we continue on in this Faith in Whatever March, we are getting ready to kick off our gratitude series here in Faith in Whatever. And so over the month of November, we're going to be taking some time to discuss the value of what gratitude...
We just randomly picked Thanksgiving for November.
No idea. It just happened to coincide with where
original
we felt like
ideas.
The Lord was leading. So just gratitude, a little PMA, and some elbow grease can really get a lot of fixing done for life. PMA stands for positive mental attitude.
I knew that.
Or a semi-pro quote, ELE, everybody love everybody. So this week we're discussing really the history of Thanksgiving. And we're going to just talk about real quick because, James, I'll just go ahead and let you explain.
Well, this is a little bit history light. I'm no expert of the pilgrims. I have read a bit about them out of personal interest and have learned some things. It was good for me as a pastor to learn more about the pilgrims because they were interesting people in our American history. And not that they're perfect people, not that we can't criticize them for certain things, but there's also things you can learn from them. And
Is it inappropriate to call them pilgrims? Do they have a more accurate name we can call them?
Fundies?
Puritanicals?
Puritanicals? Okay. Pilgrims just seem so, old school. Maybe like...
I like pilgrim.
Those are more accurate. All right.
Talk about the pilgrim of faith.
You can start calling people pilgrim.
Yeah. My grandfather calls people pilgrim all the time.
That's going to be the next big first name for boys.
How you doing, Pilgrim? Nice, nailed it.
Anyway, so back on track here. So we wanted to talk about Thanksgiving. I think that the pilgrims teach us something about Thanksgiving, at least Christian Thanksgiving, that I find very important. When we... So often in church circles, it's easy to fall into a cycle of just being thankful for what's good in your life and then just trying to get through anything else, right? Mm-hmm. And that these become very compartmentalized aspects of our faith and our living. But I think the pilgrims teach us something about Christian Thanksgiving that's very important. And the important thing to do is not to romanticize, first of all, the pilgrims. That they, when we think about that first Thanksgiving, right, that was called by Governor William Bradford, that we imagine sort of people sitting at like picnic tables with various food items and eating off plates and silverware and
corn and fish and
just like it looked on the wall of my first grade classroom.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this very happy, festive picnic meal.
Fully clothed Native Americans.
Exactly. But in fact, when you really look at what's going on with the pilgrims in that time in their life, it really sort of shakes up our presuppositions about them. First of all, that first year on the new land, right, in the Americas, they had lost about 50% of their population, right, from the boat ride over to the first year in the Americas, that they were not as prepared for the harsh New England winter as they thought they would be. And they lost their crops. There was a lot of starvation. A lot of people died. They lost about 50% of their populace, which means after the first year of this whole venture, just about anybody in that group could say that year they had lost family, and if not that, at least friends, right? And a significant amount of their family and friends, right? 50%. Imagine 50% of the people dying in a year. That's exactly what they had experienced. And when they call together that Thanksgiving after that first year, what we have to understand, we Christians, is that they weren't just calling together a Thanksgiving to give thanks for good things in their lives. This was their response to pain and suffering. That they had gone through one of the most brutal years anybody could go through, and their choice of response was Thanksgiving. That this was their response to pain, not a response to what's good in their lives. This was their response to what was hurting in their lives. And I think when it comes to a Christian understanding, a Christian framework of Thanksgiving, there's something to learn that Christian Thanksgiving isn't about merely saying to God, hey, thanks for all these good things in my life. In fact, Christian Thanksgiving might be a little bit of the opposite. It might be a conscious decision about how you respond to the pain in your life.
Right.
And that's kind of what we want to discuss here, is like Thanksgiving, right? And what that season can mean for Christians. It doesn't have to be I know many people who, when it comes to November festivities, those people who had a great year are very happy at Thanksgiving. Most people are neutral. They're not even really thinking about it. They're just waiting for some turkey and ham. And then there's a few people who say, no, I've had a really bad year, and so I'm going to refuse to be thankful. But all three of those things are missing the real point of what Christian Thanksgiving is.
Right.
Is that it's about having a conscious response to the pain in your life. It's about choosing Thanksgiving, not just having it be some kind of reaction out of your hands that you just react to your year or something like that.
Yeah.
Did you want to add anything to that, maybe?
Yeah, here, I'll read a little verse to kind of help us kind of put in perspective maybe the biblical view. We know the Apostle Paul
the singular biblical view.
The only
sure.
biblical view.
It's mine, and I'm speaking, so that's all we got right now. The Apostle Paul, writing from prison and speaking about persecution and things like that. 2 Corinthians 12:10 says, "That's why I take pleasure in my weakness and in the insults, hardships, persecutions, and troubles that I suffer for Christ. For when I am weak, then I am strong." Some translations say, "For when I, because of my weakness, then I need your strength." Kind of giving us the picture of kind of being grateful for the negative things, because that means that then you now need God.
Yeah.
You rejoice in your weaknesses in the ways that you're not fully formed, fully perfect, because God fills those things in. And in spite of your weaknesses, God has allowed you to accomplish things or even be happy or be, successful. And, to be thankful for our weaknesses so that God can be glorified is not something that we talk about or teach. I mean, I can picture my little daughter, she's almost 4, in children's ministry or in her preschool and going around. It's November, so they'll probably do this at least once. Go around the circle and what are you thankful for? And she does. We've never done that before. I mean, she's not even 4, but I can see that what she'll get from people is just all the good things. I'm thankful for my toys, and I'm thankful for my, that my parents are happy, and I'm thankful for, my safety.
Right.
And even in a Christian context, she's not going to be taught that it's okay to be thankful for some of the hard things in your life, because then God can take care of you, or then God can, give you comfort.
Right. And this is, to be clear, what we're not proposing is just be like this sort of fatalist who, fatalist is the wrong word, but a person who, we're not saying reject what's good in your life, right? Or pretend it's not good. You're going to have good in your life, and it's okay to be thankful for the good in your life. But the idea is, like, at the root, what makes Christian thankfulness Christian is that it's a decision from the believer to give thanks to a God for what some pastors have called, I didn't come up with this, the left hand of God, right? So the right hand of God is all those good things, so those blessings, the things that are clear blessings in your life. Life itself, sustainment of life when life is going well, right? The right hand of God. The left hand of God being when he takes things from you that maybe you wouldn't want taken, or when he gives things to you maybe you wouldn't want. Can you still exercise thankfulness for a Lord who even gives bad, or at least allows bad?
Yeah. I tend to think of it from this angle too. We're terrible at, especially in like Western Christianity, in terms of like I shouldn't say we're terrible. We're not the best at commiserating and commemorating for the sake of tradition. So what I really like about this idea of Thanksgiving, there's an imperative attached to it, right? Like where you're actually actively participating in the something there. And that's important because I think if we do this well, we begin to follow the Jewish model of remembrance, right? And you see throughout the Old Testament, in the Hebrew Bible, however you label it, there's always this giving of thanks for the Exodus, right? There's Passover, whatever it is, right? There's a hearkening back and a remembering of the way that God had delivered them through perilous times and those things. And in the midst of those things were bad times, right? In the midst of those things were difficult things that people had to go through. There was famine, there was loss, there was wandering, 40 years worth, whatever it might be. And these things are hard to live through and hard to come by, but the preservation of the people is still what God is ultimately praised for. And when we participate in that through the year, but particularly on this one day or through this month, whatever it looks like, we're participating in 2,000 years of Christian history, of people being faithful, of hearkening back, of being a part of the greater Christian narrative that goes just beyond our stuff, right? And so that helps us to have a deeper sense of understanding. And so we'll go ahead and issue the challenge right now while you're looking for it, James. Faith and Whatever will be doing a 30 days of gratitude in this idea where we're going to be we'll have different people send us videos, and we'll have different videos of us ourselves there giving back, and just like 30-second, 45-second clips of just like stuff we're thankful for, or writing a blog post of why, what we're reflecting on that day. And so if you're watching this, we want to invite you to join in that challenge there. We really want to have this be something that lasts for more than 30 days, ultimately, to have this kind of be a cultivated gratitude lifestyle where you begin to seek out the things for which you are grateful that you have. So that way you can reflect, especially if you're a believer. It's important to kind of keep these things to be able to reflect on throughout multiple times in the year, because you can see God's hand of faithfulness through things, right? And even in the difficult things, you can see how God answers those prayers. So, Chris, do you have any thoughts to add?
No.
All right.
I wanted to add, there's a passage that came to mind while I was speaking, which is from Acts 5. And the particular verse I'm going to talk about is Acts 5, I believe, 40. Yeah. And so what has happened is the apostles did some miracles. This is after the Pentecost, and it got them sort of in trouble with the local Jerusalem leadership. And I'm summarizing here, but the Jerusalem leadership flogged or punished them, persecuted them in a certain way, both physically and verbally. And a passage I find striking is as they're leaving from this place where they've been persecuted, even physically, this is what it says of them. So it says, and when they had called in the apostles, they had them flogged. And then they ordered them not to speak in the name of Jesus and let them go. As the apostles left the council, they rejoiced that they were considered worthy to suffer dishonor for the sake of the name. And that's what I'm talking about as far as like thanksgiving or gratitude. It's the idea is like they found,
talk about paradigm shift, right?
Right. That they were thankful for the chance to suffer for Christ, which is a completely different way of thinking about suffering. Mm-hmm. We actually talked about this a long time ago. We talked about sort of reconsidering our suffering, our pain in this way. And so I just want to throw that in there. Anyway.
Yeah, well, I think this kind of speaks to our difficulty in really, I guess, accepting and understanding the nature of God. I look at my church context and we do prayer requests, and maybe we'll do, prayer being answered. And it's like, I'm trying to be sensitive as possible, because I'm not saying that this is an easy frame of mind, but pray that Nana gets better, and Nana doesn't get better, so then God didn't answer my prayer, right, because things got worse and maybe she passed. But if she would have gotten better, we would have the next day in the church bulletin said, God answered my prayer. And so you already set up this, God desires the same outcome that you do. So you're going to be thankful for the ways in which your needs and God's wants aligned, and yet you're going to struggle with when they don't align. Right. And I think that falls into our gratefulness. So we go around the group in the circle in youth group or in church, and you say, what are you thankful for? We really are only comfortable saying we're thankful for when God's will and my desires align. And I don't know how to say that I'm thankful for the fact that, I lost my best friend, or I'm getting in a fight with my spouse, or, right. And I think, I'll take some responsibility as a pastor that I don't know how to approach those things, especially when you've got people or students in your groups who you even teaching on it is not even going to help. You know what I mean? Like they're just so in the middle of their difficult situation that it's very difficult to speak.
It becomes a platitude at best, right, and an insult at worst.
Yeah, and frankly, when you're dealing with young people are still thinking very binary, black and white, yes and no's, trues and falses. People in their teens haven't really nuanced their thinking. The brain, it just hasn't developed to the point where it can nuance thinking quite a bit. So sometimes these are lessons you learn into your adulthood, not necessarily you can impart to children. And I think it's nearly impossible to impart it to children because they're thinking in terms of fair and not fair, right? Whereas being thankful for the bad is an unfair proposition.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But it's a Christ-like attitude, right? To be thankful for these things in which you wouldn't, other people would not. A Christian should have that ability.
Hebrews 12:12 talks about that directly, right? How Jesus counted the joy before him, right, set before him when he was going to the cross to be crucified.
Yeah, well, that's why when you spoke about Christians or Western Christians sometimes having the fear, the anxiety with remembering some of the negative, I think the communion slightly goes against that, right? I mean, you're taking communion and you're remembering Christ's body which means that
Yeah, we don't do communion well.
which means that you're remembering that we as humans tortured it and destroyed it.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess that's probably a personal thing, but I know that whenever I take communion, it's just as much sad as it is something to celebrate.
To be thankful for.
Also, you know what though, for those of you who are very comfortable with talking about Thanksgiving amidst pain, be careful how you talk about people who are in pain right now.
Right.
Don't go around just telling people in pain be thankful, because that's going to do quite the opposite of what you want, right?
It's kind of sounds like what we're saying, but we're not.
It's not what we're saying, but I think some people don't realize
Absolutely.
that that's not a good approach to pain, to just tell people to be thankful or tell people to just pray more or something like that.
Right.
Don't
It's more
do
of a
that.
balance of looking at your life. When someone
Don't ever do
asks
that.
you, what are you thankful for? A Christian approach would be to look at where God is moving in your life, in the good things that he's doing in life, but also the ways that he's asking you to sacrifice.
Yeah.
Or the
And
ways that
moving
he's,
in you in the bed.
yeah, a way that he's giving you strength when you're weak.
Be a big enough personal platform to be able to mourn the bad, but still be thankful for your God. Right, to be able to do both at the same time. Because, I mean, it would be equally immature of us to tell people not to mourn the bad, because it's bad, and bad hurts, right? Somebody dies that we love, it hurts, and we shouldn't just only be thankful. But the idea is, can we mourn that pain and mourn that reality, but then also express a thankfulness for life itself and for the years we shared with that person and for the goodness of our God? Can we be a big enough vessel to carry both, right? Both mourning and thankfulness.
It's a beautiful way to really put it in perspective as we go through this month. So if you want to be a part of that journey with us, feel free to either send them to us at faithandwhatever@gmail.com, tag us with the hashtag faithandwhatever, and we'll find it on all forms of social media, including Snapchat. We would love to kind of connect with you there through our Facebook. We are at facebook.com/faithandwhatever. youtube.com/faithandwhatever. I'm at Josh_Carmen, at TStudentLife, at James YUILE, and Chris
Instagram.
is at Marion Ranch, and our Instagram handle is at faithandwhatever. So thank you so much for stopping by, and we hope that this month will be a good month of gratitude for you.
See ya.